The fight started over something silly, as most of them did. A misplaced remote, a forgotten chore, the kind of small sparks that somehow, with us, always managed to ignite a bonfire. This time, though, it felt different. The air in our Oak Haven home, usually filled with a comfortable quiet, was thick with unspoken words, with the weight of arguments that had lingered too long. Serafina's voice, usually so vibrant, turned sharp, cutting through the silence of the living room. "Take your things out of my room," she demanded, her eyes flashing with a familiar intensity. I stood there for a moment, caught off guard. It was a common refrain in our more heated discussions, but it always stung. It implied a division, a sense of mine and yours, that felt so contrary to the vows we had made just over a year ago. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my own voice steady, and moved to comply. Her room, which had always felt like a shared space, suddenly felt like forbidden territory. I gathered a few boxes that had migrated there, things I used occasionally, and then, almost as an afterthought, picked up my phone charger. It was a small, practical item, but one we both used, often swapping it between rooms. That simple act, picking up the charger, seemed to ignite a new wave of anger in her. Her face hardened, and before I could even process what was happening, she was striding towards my gaming den, her steps deliberate and quick. My heart began to pound. I knew what she was going for. The Nexus 5, my pride and joy. It sat there, a silent sentinel, connected to its monitor. This was more than just a game console to me. It was a gift, a promise, a symbol of a time when things felt simpler, happier. I remembered that day so clearly, our wedding day, a little over a year ago. I had been content with my Echo Station 4. The games I played ran perfectly fine on it. But Serafina, with that joyful glint in her eyes, had wanted to give me something special. Her wedding gift to me wasn't just a console, it was an entire setup. The Nexus 5, a sleek new monitor, a comfortable headset, and 2 games she knew I'd been looking forward to. I was truly happy. I can still see her, sitting beside me on the floor, watching as I carefully unwrapped each item, plugging in cables, her excitement mirroring mine. She even joined me for a bit, playing the built-in game, her laughter filling the room. It was a beautiful memory, a moment of pure, uncomplicated joy. Now that memory felt like a distant echo in the face of her fury. She reached for the power cord of the Nexus 5, her fingers already moving to unplug it. "I'm going to sell it on Digital Bazaar," she announced, her voice cold and resolved. The words hit me hard, a punch to the gut. Not just the threat of losing the console, but the casual way she dismissed its meaning to me, her own gift. Panic surged. My mind raced. All my personal information, my card details, my game saves, they were all on that console. I had to act fast. Without thinking, I moved towards her, wrapping my arms gently around her from behind, hoping to prevent her from reaching the console. It was a desperate move, an attempt to stall, to buy myself time. She struggled against my hold, her determination unwavering, but I was just as determined. My hands, moving almost instinctively, went to the back of the console. First, I unplugged the external hard drive, safeguarding months of progress. Then, with a quick click, I ejected the game disc, a game I had bought with my own money. And finally, with a deep breath, I initiated a factory reset. The thought of all that data being out there, exposed, was unbearable. The console wiped itself clean, erasing everything, as her angry words still hung in the air. I felt a wave of relief, mixed with a profound sadness. The console was safe, in a way, but the peace in our home felt shattered. The days that followed were a blur of quiet tension. We moved around each other like strangers, the silence in the house heavier than any shouted argument. I tried to go about my routine, work, errands, anything to fill the emptiness that had settled in. But the console, or rather the memory of that moment, lingered in my mind. I kept replaying it, wondering if I could have handled it differently, if there was a way to stop the spiral. Then, one afternoon, as I pulled into our driveway after work, I saw it. A truck, not ours. My stomach dropped. A cold dread seeped into my bones, a feeling I knew all too well. Before I could even turn off the engine, the front door opened, and Serafina emerged. And there it was, clutched in her hands, the Nexus 5. My breath caught in my throat. She was actually doing it. She was selling it. A strange calm washed over me, a stillness born of pure disbelief. But then, a flicker of something else, a small spark of defiant hope. I remembered the power cord. When she had stormed into my room, threatening to unplug everything, I had quickly swapped the Nexus 5 cord with my old Echo Station 4 cord. The Nexus 5 cord was safely tucked away, a secret safeguard. As she walked past the truck, talking to the man who was clearly the buyer, I noted the absence of the correct power cord. It was a small detail, but it was my detail, my quiet act of rebellion. She disappeared back into the house, presumably to finalize the deal. I got out of my car, my eyes fixed on the man by the truck. He seemed like an ordinary person, just someone looking for a good deal. Taking a deep breath, I walked over to him. "Excuse me," I said, my voice softer than I intended, but firm enough. "I need to tell you something about that console. Point." I explained the situation to him, keeping my tone calm, factual. I told him about the argument, about Serafina's sudden decision, and about the factory reset. I emphasized the emotional value of the console to me, the gift it had been. He listened patiently, his expression shifting from curiosity to understanding. To my immense relief, he agreed to sell it back to me, away from the house, so as not to cause any more trouble with Serafina. It was a kindness I hadn't expected from a stranger, a small act of decency in a situation that felt anything but. As he drove away, I waited a moment, then quietly followed him. We met a few blocks away, in a quiet parking lot. I handed him the money, the same amount Serafina was selling it for, and he handed over the Nexus 5. The console felt strangely heavy in my hands, a tangible connection to the storm that had just passed. I felt a surge of relief, but it was tempered by a lingering sense of loss, not just of the console itself, but of the peace it represented. Later that week, I made sure to track Marcus down again. I bought him a brand new Nexus 5, just like the one he had almost purchased from Serafina. It was important to me that he wasn't out anything because of my marital troubles. The gesture cost me around $100, but it felt like a small price to pay for his understanding and help. I was thankful for his willingness to step in, and for the opportunity to reclaim what felt so important to me. That console held more than just games. It held memories and a piece of our shared history, and I was thankful I showed up on time to buy it back. Days turned into weeks, and life in Oakhaven slowly, tentatively, began to settle into a new rhythm. A cautious peace had returned to our home, but it was a fragile one, easily broken. The Nexus 5 was back in my gaming den, a silent testament to the storm it had weathered. I started playing again, slowly rebuilding my progress. It was a bit disheartening to lose some of my game saves, as not all of my progress had been backed up. But even with the setback, having the console back felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Serafina, for her part, seemed to cool down. She didn't mention the console or the truck, or anything that had happened. It was as if we had tacitly agreed to pretend it hadn't occurred, to paper over the crack that had formed between us. I started using my older television for the console, since she still had the monitor she had given me with the Nexus 5. I didn't want to bring up the monitor, didn't want to risk disturbing the delicate balance we had achieved. Then one evening, she saw the Nexus 5 in my room again. I was in the middle of a game, lost in the digital world, when she walked in. Her eyes widened, and a gasp escaped her lips. For a moment, I braced myself, expecting another outburst, a fresh wave of accusations. But then, her expression shifted. It was a mix of surprise and something else, something I couldn't quite decipher. She quickly went for her phone, and I knew she was texting Marcus, the man I had bought the console back from. My heart gave a little jump, but then I remembered. I had been texting him too, making sure he was taken care of with a brand new Nexus 5. There was no way she could undo what I had done. She didn't know I had already bought him a new console for his trouble. The knowledge gave me a quiet sense of satisfaction. Things remained calm. Not truly resolved, but quiet. We continued our daily lives, sharing meals, going through the motions of being a married couple. But beneath the surface, a subtle shift had occurred in me. I found myself being more guarded. I noticed I was not accepting anything from her, aside from food. It was a subconscious decision at first, a tiny self-preservation mechanism that built up without me even fully realizing it. Then came Black Friday. Serafina arrived home, a bright smile on her face, holding a small package. "I got you something," she said, her voice filled with an almost childlike excitement. She presented me with a wallet, a really nice one. She said it cost $150. My current wallet was old, almost 7 years old, but still perfectly functional. I looked at the new wallet, then at her beaming face. She was clearly eager to see me use it, to transfer my cash and cards into it. A gentle sadness touched her expression. Her excitement, so palpable just moments before, faded. She eventually gave the wallet to her friend's boyfriend after they went out for dinner together. Her disappointment was clear, and it made her upset that I didn't accept her gift, especially since she bought it with love. I understood why she was upset. From her perspective, it was a loving gesture, a gift meant to bridge the gap that had formed. But for me, it was different. I just couldn't bring myself to accept it. The real reason, the deep-seated one, I didn't tell her. I simply said I would use it after my old one gave out. I didn't want to get into another small argument that could escalate, leading to her wanting the wallet back, just like she had tried to do with the Nexus 5. That fear, that subtle sting of control, had changed something in me. I could have easily bought another Nexus 5 for myself, but that one had more emotional value to me. The memory of her selling my console, claiming ownership because she bought it for me, lingered like a shadow. It was a difficult lesson to learn that sometimes, even a gift given with love can come with unspoken conditions that change everything. The incident with the wallet, while seemingly minor, felt like a turning point. It wasn't just about a gift. It was about the underlying tension, the unresolved issues that simmered beneath the surface of our marriage. Serafina's sadness over my refusal was genuine, I believe, but it was a sadness born from a different understanding of events. She saw it as a gift bought with love, a gesture of affection. I saw it through the lens of what had happened before, a silent caution against another emotional manipulation, another attempt to assert control through something given. That incident with the Nexus 5 had left a mark, a deep one. It wasn't just the console itself, but the feeling of having something precious, something given out of supposed generosity, used as a weapon in a moment of anger. When she said, "Take your things out of my room," and then tried to sell the console because she bought it, it fundamentally shifted my perspective on what a gift from her meant. The emotional value of that console, that initial gesture of connection, was immense to me. It was more than just a gaming system. It was a symbol of shared happiness, a tangible representation of our wedding day. To have it threatened, to have my personal information almost exposed, and then to have to buy it back, it was a profound violation of trust. I thought about how easily she had gone to unplug my PS5 and monitor, how determined she was to sell it on Facebook Marketplace. That raw moment of panic, of having to factory reset the console just to protect my personal information, it was something I couldn't easily forget. The memory of rushing to unplug the external hard drive and take the disk out stayed with me. It was a stark reminder of how quickly things could escalate, how fragile our peace could be. And then, the quiet chase, following Marcus's truck to get the console back. That clandestine exchange in the parking lot, paying him back for what was essentially already mine. It was a bizarre experience, almost surreal, but the relief of having it back in my hands, even after losing some game progress, was immense. I was thankful for Marcus, for his unexpected help in that moment of crisis. And even though I ended up spending more, buying him a new console for his trouble, it felt like the right thing to do. It was a small price to pay for reclaiming something that held so much personal significance. The argument, which started as a silly one, had escalated far beyond what I thought possible. It had exposed a vulnerability, a crack in the foundation of our marriage. And it had taught me a difficult lesson, that sometimes, even from those we love, gifts can carry an unspoken price, a potential for control that I was no longer willing to accept. My refusal of the wallet wasn't a rejection of her, but a quiet act of self-preservation, a way to protect my emotional boundaries in a relationship where I felt they had been overstepped. From that point on, aside from food, I found myself instinctively not accepting anything from her. It was a silent boundary I had to set, a way to rebuild a sense of safety and autonomy within my own life. The days stretched into weeks, then months, carrying with them the quiet hum of our strained reality. The Nexus 5 sat in my room, a constant unspoken reminder of the fragility of our peace. I played on it, yes, but the joy was often tinged with the memory of its brief absence, the frantic scramble to reclaim it. I used my old television, carefully avoiding any mention of the monitor that still resided in Serafina's room, a silent agreement not to poke the bear. We kept to our routines, ate meals together, occasionally even shared a laugh over something trivial, but the effortless comfort, the easy rhythm of our early marriage, felt like a distant echo. The Black Friday wallet incident replayed in my mind more often than I cared to admit. It was a clear line in the sand for me. Her disappointment was palpable, and I genuinely felt a pang of sadness for her. She truly believed she was giving me a gift bought with love. But for me, the context was everything. The memory of her saying, "Take your things out of my room," followed by her attempt to sell the PS5 because she bought it for me, had fundamentally altered my perception of her gestures. It wasn't just about a wallet. It was about the unspoken strings that seemed to be attached, the potential for a gift to be weaponized in a future argument. I just didn't want to get into a small argument that led to her wanting the wallet. It was a quiet shift in my own behavior. Aside from food, I started instinctively not accepting anything from her. It wasn't a conscious, angry decision, but rather a protective one. My trust, once so freely given, had developed a new caution. I found myself thinking twice, holding back, creating a small emotional buffer between us. It was a way to shield myself from that particular kind of hurt again, the kind where generosity turns into a claim of ownership. The truth was, I could have easily bought another PS5 for myself. The cost wasn't the issue. It was the emotional value of that specific console. It was the wedding gift, the symbol of a hopeful beginning. The feeling of watching her set it up and start playing, even playing the built-in game together. Those were precious memories. To have that threatened, to have to chase it down and pay for it again, it felt like a betrayal of that initial joy. I was thankful for showing up on time to buy it back. Sometimes I would look at her, and I could see the confusion in her eyes, the lingering hurt from my refusal of the wallet. She had given it to her friend's boyfriend eventually, and I knew that must have stung. It was a silent testament to the distance that had grown between us, a distance paved with unspoken resentments and the heavy weight of past actions. We were married, yes, but the easy intimacy, the sense of absolute trust, felt like it was slipping away. It was a quiet, almost imperceptible erosion, but it was there, a constant presence in the background of our lives. The silence around the Nexus 5 and the wallet grew, a quiet acknowledgement of the unresolved issues between us. Serafina never brought up the console directly after that initial shock, and I never spoke about the wallet after my polite refusal. It was a strange dance of unspoken agreements, a carefully maintained facade of normalcy. But beneath it, a subtle shift had taken place. I found myself instinctively guarding my space, my things, my emotional well-being, in a way I never had before in our marriage. A memory of her saying, "Take your things out of my room," echoed in my mind, not as an angry shout, but as a chilling premonition. It was the first crack in the foundation, the moment when the line between ours and mine became dangerously clear. And then her threat to sell the console on Facebook Marketplace, the justification that she bought it for me. It cemented a new understanding in my mind. A gift, when given with conditions, or when used as leverage in an argument, ceases to be a true gift. It becomes a tool, a means of control. I replayed the moment in my mind, that frantic scramble to unplug the external hard drive and take the disk out, to factory reset the console before she could expose my personal information. That raw vulnerability, the feeling of my digital life being held hostage, was a powerful lesson. It taught me the importance of boundaries, even within the closest of relationships, and it solidified my resolve to protect those boundaries. The morning I saw the truck in our driveway, and then saw her emerge with the PS5, but without the power cord, it was a bizarre mix of dread and a strange sense of vindication. My small act of defiance, hiding the cord, had paid off. And then, approaching the guy, telling him what happened, and his agreement to sell it back to me away from the house. That moment of unexpected understanding from a stranger was a small comfort in a world that felt increasingly chaotic. Paying him back, and later buying him a brand new PS5 for his inconvenience, those were small sacrifices, but they felt necessary. They were acts of fairness and gratitude in a situation that had been anything but fair. The console was back, but the emotional cost was undeniable. Losing some progress on my games because it wasn't backed up 100% was a minor inconvenience, compared to the deeper loss of trust. The Nexus 5 had immense emotional value to me, far beyond its monetary worth. It was a tangible link to our wedding day, a symbol of a time when generosity felt pure and unconditional. To have had it almost ripped away, and then to have to buy it back, it made me question everything about how we communicated, how we resolved conflict, and how we treated each other's emotional. The quiet accumulation of these experiences, particularly the Nexus 5 incident and the wallet, led me to a profound, if unspoken, understanding about our marriage. It was a realization that didn't come with a dramatic flash, but rather a slow dawning clarity, much like the gentle creeping of dawn in Oakhaven. I began to see that love, especially in its transactional moments, could become a complex thing. My wife had bought me the PS5, a monitor, a headset, and 2 games as a wedding gift. I was happy, and she watched me set it up and start playing. She even played the built-in game with me. That memory of her excitement, of our shared joy, was what gave that console immense emotional value to me. It wasn't just about the gaming system itself, it was about the intention, the connection, the feeling of being seen and understood through a thoughtful gift. But then, the argument, the escalation, and her words, "Take your things out of my room," and her subsequent attempt to unplug my PS5 and monitor, threatening to sell it on Facebook Marketplace, claiming it was hers because she bought it for me. That act, her wanting to sell the PS5, fundamentally changed how I viewed gifts from her. It taught me that a gift, when given with a subtle undercurrent of ownership, or when it could be weaponized in moments of anger, loses its true meaning. It transforms from an expression of affection into a tool, a means of asserting power or control. When she bought me the wallet for $150 on Black Friday, my immediate reaction was a quiet, internal recoil. I told her I'd use it after mine gave out, which I had for 7 years. But the real reason, the deep-seated one, was that I just didn't want to get into a small argument that led to her wanting the wallet back. It was a protective measure, a way to avoid the potential for another emotional entanglement. Another situation where a gift became a point of contention. Her excitement faded when I said I wouldn't use it, and she eventually gave it to her friend's boyfriend. She was upset that I didn't accept her gift she bought with love. I understood her feelings, but the context for me was inescapable. This experience, this slow unraveling of trust around gifts, had changed me. Aside from food, I hadn't been accepting anything from her. It wasn't a deliberate act of malice, but a quiet, almost instinctive self-preservation. It was about creating boundaries, about protecting my emotional space from the potential for hurt that had become associated with what should have been gestures of kindness. I learned that the act of gifting is not just about the item itself, but about the spirit in which it is given and received. For a gift to truly bring joy, it must be offered freely, without conditions, without the threat of retraction. And for the recipient, the acceptance of that gift must feel equally free, unburdened by fear or unspoken expectations. This realization